Tonight, we are not in a hurry. There is no need to understand everything. We simply step together beyond the most familiar place we know, our Milky Way, as though walking out of a warm, familiar room to gaze at a wider sky beyond the window. Imagine that you are drifting gently above the Milky Way, a soft spiral of hundreds of billions of stars turning slowly in the dark. Somewhere within one of its quiet spiral arms rests our sun, and around the sun there is Earth, and on Earth there is you. Seen from this distance, the things that weighed on you today begin to feel lighter, not because they are unimportant, but because they are placed within a wider frame. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in Meditations, think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now, take what's left and live it properly. Standing beneath this immense sky, the words lose their somber tone and become something gentler, almost liberating. If all things drift within the vastness of countless galaxies, perhaps we too may set down what is unnecessary. We move farther still. The Milky Way becomes a faint glimmer in an ocean of black. Space is not as frightening as we once imagined. It is quiet, a quiet not of emptiness, but of possibility. Carl Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Yet sometimes to look deeply within, we must first look very far beyond ourselves. The farther we travel outward, the less crowded the mind begins to feel. At this distance, you are no longer the center of every event. You are simply a small element within an immense structure, and that realization is light. Notice your breathing now, slower, more even, like galaxies that require hundreds of millions of years to complete a single turn. Tonight, we do not explore the universe in order to conquer it. We look outward to understand that we do not need to control everything. The universe continues to unfold without our worry. And within that vastness, there is a very small space, just enough for you to set down the final thoughts of your day. We will continue this journey, but for now, let the Milky Way drift gently behind you like a tender memory, and allow your mind to open slowly, peacefully, within a shoreless ocean of stars. Stay a little longer with the Milky Way, a spiral stretching roughly 100,000 light years across, 200 to 400 billion stars turning quietly around an unseen center. That number alone is enough to make the mind pause, and then we drift farther still. The Milky Way, which once seemed to encompass everything, begins to shrink. Its spiral arms soften into a gentle blur of light within the dark. Ahead, in that depth of space, there is another faint glow, dimmer, more distant, yet still visible to the naked eye on a truly clear night. That is Andromeda, about 2.5 million light years away. Let that number slow within your thoughts. The light you are seeing from Andromeda left its home when our distant ancestors were still learning to shape their first stone tools, when fire had only just been tamed, when there were no cities, no writing, no philosophy. That light crossed an almost unimaginable emptiness, passed through unnamed regions of darkness, traveled for 2 million years simply to rest upon your retina in this moment. And if we consider that gently, it is not a dry scientific detail. It is a whisper about time. Immanuel Kant once wrote, in Critique of Pure Reason, space is not something objective and real, but something subjective and ideal. Space is not merely the distance between objects, it is the way our minds arrange experience. When you look at Andromeda, you are not just looking at a galaxy. You are looking into the past. A past deeper than the history of any civilization. And suddenly, your present feels fragile, but not weak. Fragile, like morning mist lifted by an endless sky. Perhaps that is the true shock. Not the size, not the number, but the realization that we live within a current far greater than our personal story. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. The universe around us appears chaotic, yet within that vastness stars are born, and in one small corner of an ordinary galaxy, consciousness awakened. As the Milky Way rests far behind you in imagination, and Andromeda hangs quietly in the dark, something subtle begins to happen. Heavy thoughts grow lighter. You do not need to solve everything right now. You do not need to be perfect. You are simply a breathing being on a planet orbiting an ordinary star within a galaxy that is not unique, and far ahead another galaxy slowly approaches across billions of years. In about 4.5 billion years, the Milky Way and Andromeda will meet, not as a violent explosion, but as a long dance unfolding across hundreds of millions of years. Stars will rarely collide. They will glide past one another, orbits, reshaping spiral structures, dissolving, until at last they merge into a new elliptical galaxy. A dance without an audience, without music, only gravity and time. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in Meditations, consider how ephemeral and mean all mortal things are. He did not say this to make us despair. He said it to free us. When you place your life beside 2.5 million light years, when you place a human lifespan beside billions of cosmic years, you begin to see that you do not need to carry so much weight. The light from Andromeda has been patient for 2 million years. It did not rush. It did not worry. It did not compete. It simply traveled. And perhaps tonight you may allow yourself the same. Simply move through one day without needing to understand everything, without needing to hold it all. Just breathe. Imagine yourself suspended between the Milky Way and Andromeda. The space around you is not cold, but still. A stillness that demands nothing, that judges nothing, that urges nothing. Here you are not the center, but neither are you lost. You are a small point of awareness, witnessing ancient light. And that is wondrous enough. This first shock of scale is not meant to frighten you. It is only opening a door. From the small room of the Milky Way, you step onto the balcony of the universe, watching Andromeda glow softly in the night. And when you recognize your smallness, you also recognize that you are held within an immense structure. The scattered thoughts of today now drift more slowly, like that ancient light. And perhaps within that slowness you begin to feel something very gentle, that you do not need to hurry, that the universe already has its own rhythm, and you may rest within it. The Milky Way behind you, Andromeda ahead. Between the two galaxies lies a stretch of space wide enough for you to set down every worry. We will travel farther still, but before leaving this moment, let the light 2.5 million years old soften your eyes and allow your mind to sink light as stardust into the endless expanse. Imagine a night in the 1920s, a great telescope standing silently atop a mountain, the California sky still and untouched by light pollution, and a single human being small within the darkness, gazing at distant, faint spiral smudges. Before that moment, many astronomers believed the Milky Way was the entire universe. Those spiral streaks were thought to be clouds of gas internal structures within our own galaxy, a large house, but still only a house. Then Edwin Hubble measured the distance to Andromeda, and that distance lay far beyond the borders of the Milky Way. It was not a cloud within our home. It was another home, and not just one, perhaps countless. That moment did not erupt with noise. There were no fireworks, no applause, only a quiet realization the universe was larger than we had ever imagined. And with that realization, something else shifted softly as well. The human ego. Immanuel Kant once wrote, "In Critique of Practical Reason, two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe: the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me." Before Hubble, the starry heavens may have been understood within the bounds of a single galaxy. After Hubble, that star-filled sky opened into an endless sea. The awe deepened, and with it, humility. Stay within that moment for a while. You live in an age where trillions of galaxies are familiar facts. But imagine the feeling of those early 20th century minds when they realized their home was only a grain of dust within an uncountable multitude. It was a shock, and yet also a liberation. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote in The Gay Science, "The world has become infinite for us all over again." The sentence seems written for this very turning point. The world became infinite once more when the spiral nebulae transformed into independent galaxies. The universe did not only expand in space, it expanded within the mind. And when the mind expands, old boundaries dissolve. Perhaps that is what makes this discovery truly transformative. Not because it added billions of stars to the cosmos, but because it unsettled an illusion that we stand at the center, from our universe to a galaxy among countless others. That movement, if you notice, resembles an inner maturation. Carl Jung once wrote, in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. To become ourselves, we often must relinquish certain illusions about ourselves. Humanity has done the same. We once believed we were at the center of everything. Then we discovered Earth is not the center of the solar system. The solar system is not the center of the Milky Way. And now, the Milky Way is not the center of the universe. Each time the collective ego contracts slightly. Yet instead of being wounded, we grow deeper. Let that feeling settle within you. You are not the center of every event in your life. Not everything that happens revolves around you, and that is not a loss. It is a lightening. When Hubble looked beyond the Milky Way, he did not diminish humanity in a negative sense. He gave us a wider space in which to breathe among trillions of galaxies. Your small mistakes do not weigh so heavily. Today's worries do not fill the entire sky. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in Meditations, look at the stars in their courses and imagine yourself running along with them. Imagine yourself moving with those galaxies, not to conquer them, simply to keep rhythm. The Milky Way turns slowly. Andromeda approaches across billions of years. Other galaxies drift quietly with the expansion of space. And within it all, there is a point of awareness observing you. Hubble's discovery was not merely an astronomical event. It was a reminder that understanding can always expand. That what we believe to be the whole may be only a small part. And what might that mean for you here and now? There may be limits you are placing upon yourself, beliefs that your story is fixed. But if the universe can expand, so too can your perception. Notice your breathing once more, slower, each breath a small movement within a vast cosmos. There is no need to hurry, to comprehend everything. Tonight, we do not attempt to grasp infinity. We simply touch it gently. From the Milky Way to Andromeda, from our universe to a galaxy among countless others. That world-changing moment did not leave humanity lost. It taught a simple lesson: the farther we look, the calmer the heart becomes. And as you allow your awareness to drift with those distant galaxies, the remaining thoughts of the day begin to soften, not because they vanish, but because they are placed within a wider frame. The Milky Way is now only a point of light among innumerable points of light, and you are a small consciousness within a sea of stars. Yet this does not make you less valuable. It simply makes you lighter, and in that lightness you may begin to let go. Light as a galaxy drifting across millions of years. Light as the final thought before you sink into sleep. We have left the Milky Way behind. We have seen Andromeda, and perhaps in that quiet moment, your mind has begun to grow accustomed to the idea that your home is not the whole of existence. But the journey does not end there. Imagine that you continue to drift even farther away. The Milky Way and Andromeda are no longer two separate points. They are members of a small family. That family is called the local group. About 80 galaxies, large and small, quietly orbiting one another within a region of space that stretches across millions of light years. A cosmic family. If the Milky Way once felt like our world, then the local group is like a small town in a vast countryside. And then we move farther still. The local group is only a part of the Virgo supercluster. Roughly 1,300 galaxies like cities of light connected within a faint and delicate web. If you need an image to hold on to, imagine the Milky Way as a single coin resting on the ground. Then the Virgo supercluster would stretch before you like an entire football field. The comparison is not perfectly precise, but it is enough for your mind to grasp, because the human brain needs images, not to control infinity, but to avoid feeling entirely lost within it. Albert Einstein once wrote, "In the world as I see it, the most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious." That sense of mystery is not meant to frighten. It is a doorway. When you look at the local group and then at the Virgo supercluster, you begin to notice something gentle. Everything belongs to a larger structure. And then we continue to drift outward. The Virgo supercluster is not the whole. It is only a fragment within the immense network of the observable universe. Recent estimates suggest there may be as many as 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion. Each galaxy containing hundreds of billions of stars. Each star perhaps surrounded by its own planets. And somewhere among them there may be other beings who also look up at their sky, also wondering about the structure to which they belong. When that thought arises, let it not overwhelm you. Let it move slowly like a cloud passing through the night. Because what matters is not the number. What matters is the rhythm. The universe expands in layers. Your awareness does too. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in meditations, constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul. If we imagine the universe as a living organism, then the local group is a single cell. The Virgo supercluster is an organ, and the observable universe is the body entire. Within that body, the Milky Way is not lost. It is simply part of something larger, and you are part of a part of a part. Perhaps that sounds as though it diminishes us, but try to see it another way. When you understand that you do not have to carry the whole universe on your shoulders, a quiet relief appears. You do not need to understand everything that is happening. You do not need to control every event. You only need to exist within your own layer, just as the Milky Way does not need to comprehend the entire structure of the cosmos in order to continue turning, just as the local group does not need awareness of the Virgo supercluster to remain what it is. Each layer is sufficient unto itself, and perhaps your life is the same. There are days when you feel as though you stand at the center of an immense problem, but when you place it within a wider layer, you see it as only a small movement. Nietzsche once wrote, in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Up close, the universe appears chaotic. From a distance, structure emerges. Galaxies are not scattered at random. They form networks, like the neural pathways of a vast cosmic mind. The local group, the Virgo supercluster, the observable universe. Each time you move farther out, you lose nothing. You simply see more. And when you see more, you cling less tightly to what is small. Let this image remain in your mind. The Milky Way, a small coin. The Virgo supercluster, a broad field. The observable universe, an open plain stretching to the horizon where sight can no longer reach. Across that plain, there is no noise, no urgency, only existence. And tonight, you do not need to travel through every layer. It is enough to know they are there, that above the worries of your day, larger structures move quietly in their own stillness. When you place your thoughts within a wider layer, they grow lighter. Let your mind drift outward one final time. See the local group as a small point of light. See the Virgo supercluster as a faint glow. See the observable universe as a vast star-filled night. And then allow all those images to dissolve. There is nothing to hold on to. You do not need to understand the universe in order to feel at peace. It is enough to know that you are part of a vast structure, and that structure is steady, still turning, still expanding, still moving in the slow rhythm of time. And within that rhythm, you may allow yourself to slow down. Light as a galaxy among trillions of galaxies. Light as a final thought, gently fading into sleep. When we drift farther beyond the familiar layers, something begins to emerge from the darkness. The universe is not a sea of stars scattered at random. It has structure. If you could step back hundreds of millions of light years and take in the entire sky at once, you would not see isolated points of light. You would see long filaments like strands of silk, luminous walls, delicate sheets connected to one another, woven into an immense network. We call it the cosmic web, a web of galaxies stretching across unfathomable distances. Galaxies gather into chains hundreds of millions of light years long. Between them lie vast empty regions, cosmic voids where almost nothing resides. On one side there are structures like the Great Wall, a sweeping barrier of galaxies cutting across space like a bright fracture in the night. On the other, there is the Bota's Void, a cavern of emptiness so wide that light takes hundreds of millions of years to cross it, yet touches almost no galaxies along the way. One region dense, another nearly hollow. That contrast is not accidental. It is the result of billions of years of gravity pulling and shaping, of tiny fluctuations in the early universe swelling into majestic architecture. And if you listen closely, there is a gentle lesson within that structure. Not everything must be filled. Not every emptiness is a deficiency. Martin Heidegger once wrote in Being and Time Anxiety reveals the nothing, but that nothing is not absolute void. It is a clearing in which being can appear. A cosmic void is not a mistake in the universe. It is part of the design, like the pause between two musical notes that gives birth to melody, like the space between thoughts that creates stillness. Imagine another possibility. What if Earth did not rest near bright clusters of galaxies, but instead lay within a vast cosmic void? Our night sky would be far darker. Fewer distant smudges of light, fewer hints of other realms. Perhaps humanity would have needed centuries more to realize there was anything beyond the Milky Way. Perhaps we would have believed in our centrality for much longer. Perception depends on position. What you see shapes what you believe is the whole. This is true not only of the universe, but of your own life. There are moments when you feel suspended within an inner void. No connection, no brilliance, just a wide and silent emptiness. Yet that emptiness does not mean you are outside the structure. You remain within the web. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order. Even in the darkest regions of space, invisible strands of dark matter quietly pass through. Even in the quietest stretches of your mind, An unseen structure continues to hold you. The cosmic web reminds us that the universe is not as chaotic as it seems. It has rhythm. It has order. It has dense nodes and spacious gaps, and perhaps your life does as well. There are seasons of connection, clusters of emotion relationships, projects, ideas woven together like bright threads. And there are seasons of barrenness and inner Bota's void. Yet seen from afar, both belong to the same web. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in meditations, all things are woven together, and the bond is sacred. All things are woven together, not only galaxies, but the moments of your life. Picture the universe as a vast skeleton. Galaxies are luminous joints. Voids are the spaces between bones. Without the gaps, the structure could not exist. If everything were dense, there would be no flow. Gravity draws matter into filaments. Voids expand, opening space outward. These forces move together like the breathing of an immense living being. Inhale, galaxies gather. Exhale, emptiness widens. Inhale, you focus. Exhale, you release. The universe is not only what fills space, it is also what leaves space open. And perhaps tonight you may allow yourself such openness. You do not need to fill every thought. You do not need to answer every question. Even if you feel you are standing within a void, you are still part of the structure. The cosmic web does not require every strand to shine equally. It simply requires each part to rest in its place. And so do you. Imagine the entire web drifting silently in the dark. Luminous walls glowing like chalk across the blackboard of night. Vast voids opening like the deep breath of space itself. And somewhere on a small planet, a consciousness reflecting on all of this. That consciousness does not need to understand the entire structure. It only needs to feel the rhythm. Let the image of the cosmic web slowly dissolve in your mind. The filaments dim, the emptiness expands. And within that emptiness, there is a gentle quiet, not nothingness, but space in which to rest. The universe is not scattered, it is woven. And tonight, you may trust that you too are woven into something larger, not lost, not cast aside, simply a small point of light resting in its place among the strands and silences of a universe that breathes very slowly. When we gaze into the cosmic web, those luminous filaments stitching galaxies together, we may begin to wonder what has woven such a structure. Not everything that shapes the universe can be seen. There are invisible forces, silent yet decisive. Dark matter. It does not shine, it does not reflect light. It does not interact with our eyes in any familiar way, and yet galaxies spin faster than they should. Light from distant galaxies bends as it passes immense clusters of mass. Vast structures endure across billions of years, as though held by an unseen scaffolding of gravity. Arthur Eddington once said, "Something unknown is doing we don't know what." Though spoken in another context, the words echo softly when we think of dark matter. We know something is holding the universe together. We simply do not know what it is. And then, just when the mysteries seem sufficient, another discovery emerges. In 1998, astronomers observing distant supernovae realized something astonishing. The universe is not only expanding, it is accelerating in its expansion. Another invisible force like dark matter, but playing an opposite role. Dark energy. If dark matter pulls inward, dark energy pushes outward. If one builds structure, the other thins it across time. Between these two forces, the universe drifts. There is something profoundly human in this story. We live between invisible forces of our own. Memories that hold us back, fears that bend our trajectories, longings that push us forward, and most of us cannot clearly point to them. Carl Jung once wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Dark matter and dark energy resemble the unconscious layers of the cosmos. They guide the motion of galaxies, yet we see only the outcomes. Perhaps that is what makes this story gentle. We do not need to see everything to know it exists. We do not need complete understanding to feel its influence. Dark matter makes up most of the universe's mass. Dark energy makes up most of its total energy. What we see, stars, planets, dust, even your own body, is only a small fraction. A thin layer of light upon a vast, dark ocean. And this is not frightening. It simply reminds us that reality is always larger than our field of vision. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything is interwoven, and the web is holy." If the cosmic web is the visible network, then dark matter and dark energy are its invisible threads. No one sees them directly, yet without them, the structure would collapse. Consider this in another way. In your life, you may also carry your own dark forces, not in a negative sense, but as quiet currents beneath the surface. Things you do not speak aloud, desires you have not yet named, wounds you thought you had forgotten. They do not appear clearly yet. They bend the orbit of your emotions just as invisible gravity bends light. And perhaps, instead of trying to illuminate every shadow, we may accept that invisibility is part of the structure. The universe does not require complete transparency to exist. It operates within mystery. There is humility in science when it speaks of dark matter and dark energy. We do not know precisely what they are. We only know they are doing something, and that not knowing does not halt us. It awakens curiosity. It keeps the story open. Perhaps within your inner life, you may also allow yourself a measure of not knowing. You do not need to explain every feeling immediately. You do not need to understand every motive at once. It is enough to recognize that unseen forces are at work and that you can learn to listen rather than resist. Imagine the universe as a slow, unfolding piece of music. Dark matter is the deep bass beneath the melody. Dark energy is the gentle wind that carries the tune forward. You may not hear the bass distinctly, yet you feel its presence. You may not see the wind, yet you notice the movement of leaves. And tonight, as you lie quietly within the soft darkness, perhaps you can sense the invisible forces within yourself. No need to name them. No need to analyze. Simply breathe. The universe is expanding. Galaxies are being pulled and pushed. Light is bending around unseen mass. And you are lying here supported by a vast structure that is mostly invisible. Perhaps that makes you feel small, but it also means you are held. Not everything must be clear for you to be safe. There are things you do not fully understand about yourself, yet they continue to move in some quiet rhythm. Let that not knowing become a soft blanket. Dark matter does not require light to exist. Dark energy does not require our attention to continue its gentle push. And you do not need to understand the entire universe in order to rest. Let your awareness drift softly within that darkness, without fear, without resistance. Among invisible forces, one thing remains visible, and simple your breath. Slowing, the universe holds mysteries yet unnamed. So do you, and both may continue to exist peacefully within the deep stillness of the night. We have traveled very far from the Milky Way outward beyond superclusters, beyond the luminous strands of the cosmic web. We have touched the invisible forces that shape the entire picture. And then within all that vastness there is a movement, small, yet not small at all. The Milky Way is drawing closer to Andromeda. The distance between the two galaxies is slowly shrinking, as though two figures were walking toward each other across an endless room. In 4.5 billion years, they will meet. When we hear the word collision, the mind may imagine a blazing explosion, a violent catastrophe. But no, on the scale of the universe, it is a dance. The distances between stars are so immense that the chance of two stars striking each other directly is exceedingly small. What unfolds is not sudden destruction, but a gradual bending of orbits. Spiral arms will stretch outward. Rivers of stars will arc into new streams of light. Two distinct structures will slowly merge, losing their former shapes to form a new elliptical galaxy. Some astronomers even give it a blended name, Milky Way, a name that sounds almost gentle. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. The universe is change. Nothing in the cosmos stands still. Nothing in your life stands still either. When the Milky Way and Andromeda meet, it will not be a tragedy. It will be a phase. Perhaps your own life holds moments like this. Encounters that feel like conflict. Changes that disturb the familiar structure of who you believed yourself to be. Yet on a wide enough scale, they may be only rearrangements." Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra, you must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? And yet this burning is not always fierce. Sometimes it unfolds slowly across millions of years. The Milky Way will not be erased. It will transform. Andromeda will not disappear. It will merge. Like two rivers joining the water, is not lost, only reshaped. Imagine yourself floating in space, watching the process unfold. There is no sound, no crash, only long streams of stars drawn like silk, curving under gravity, gradually dissolving into a new form. The process spans hundreds of millions of years, longer than the entire history of humanity, many times over. And this brings a strange comfort. The things that startle us over years, over months, over hours, become small when set beside a motion lasting billions of years. Perhaps this does not make your worries vanish, but it softens them. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. The meeting of two galaxies is not an error. It is part of the upward movement, one step in the long unfolding of cosmic structure." And perhaps your own life is similar. There are collisions that seem to threaten your former identity. Changes that unsettle you, but seen from afar, they may be the first outlines of a new shape. The Milky Way today has graceful spiral arms. In the distant future, that form will fade, and that is not loss. It is evolution. Carl Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Yet pain is not always a cry. Sometimes it is a subtle stretching, a gentle shift of orbit. When the two galaxies first pass each other, they will move apart, then return, then pass again. A long, slow cycle, each encounter altering the structure a little more. If you find yourself within a season of change, remember this: not every movement is a disaster. Not every conflict ends in ruin. Sometimes it is a dance, and a dance does not need to hurry. 4.5 billion years. The number is so vast that the mind can release its grip upon it. You do not need to witness that union. You do not need to resolve it. The universe has its own time, and you have yours. Notice your breathing now, slowing, like two galaxies approaching, but very slowly. There is nothing that must be rushed. The Milky Way and Andromeda do not fear their future. They simply follow gravity. Perhaps you too can allow yourself to follow a gentler force, the force of acceptance. In the deep darkness, two galaxies prepare for a meeting that will last millions of years. And you in this quiet room may prepare for sleep, not through resistance, but through softness. The universe is change. Life is change. But change is not always loud. Sometimes it unfolds like a slow dance between two immense structures in a silent night. And within that rhythm, you may let go. Light as a spiral arm dissolving into light. Light as a final thought before sleep arrives. When you look farther outward, you are not only looking into space, you are looking into the past. Light takes time to travel, and so every photon that touches your eyes is a fragment of memory. The James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, is not merely a telescope. It is a machine of memory. When it turns its golden mirror toward the deep darkness, it does not search for what is happening now, but for what happened billions of years ago. There are galaxies whose light began its journey when the universe was only a few 100 million years old. Pause with that number. The universe today is about 13.8 billion years old. What JWST sees belongs to a time when it was still a child. Before that lay the cosmic dark ages, a period after the Big Bang, when the universe had cooled, yet no stars had ignited, no starlight, no defined galaxies, only hydrogen and helium drifting in silence. And then somewhere within that quiet, slightly denser clouds of matter began to contract. The first stars flared into existence. Carl Jung once wrote in Psychology and Alchemy, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The universe, too, did not begin in brilliance. It passed through darkness. The first stars, the population 3 stars, were likely far larger than our sun, blazing, fiercely shining brightly and then dying quickly. They lived fast. They ended early. And in their deaths, they forged the first heavy elements. Without them, there would be no carbon, no oxygen, no you. To look far is to look backward in time, and to look backward in time is also to look toward your own origin. Within that early canvas, JWST has discovered something that unsettles astronomers: supermassive black holes, not millions of solar masses, but billions. Quasars blazing when the universe was less than 1 billion years old. How could that be? How could a black hole grow so quickly in so little time? It is not a loud question. It is a quiet one. We have models, we have equations, yet the universe seems to have moved faster than we expected, as though in the dawn of everything, immense abysses already existed. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." Here we are, not only gazing into an abyss, we are gazing into abysses that were present from the earliest days of reality itself. And this brings not fear, but humility. We often believe we are moving closer to complete understanding. Yet the farther we look, the more new questions arise. Albert Einstein once said, "The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible." And perhaps he also knew that this comprehensibility always stands at the edge of the unknown. JWST gives us sharper images than ever before. Early galaxies are no longer faint smudges, but intricate structures, and some appear to have matured too quickly. Were the first black holes born directly from the collapse of enormous gas clouds? Are the laws we don't know only simplified versions of something deeper? These questions do not demand immediate answers. In the night sky, they are like distant stars. They are there, and their existence is beautiful enough. You do not need to understand how a black hole grows to feel the stillness of the sky. You do not need to resolve every paradox to let your breathing slow. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present." Your present is not 13 billion years ago. Your present is the rhythm of your heart right now. Yet knowing that the universe was once dark, then brightened, then formed immense abysses in its own infancy, may soften the weight of your own darkness. Darkness is not an error, it is a phase. And light is not permanent, it is a process. JWST offers more than images. It reminds us that everything was once fragile. There was a time when the universe held no stars, no planets, no observers. And now, after billions of years of unfolding, a small being lies upon a rocky planet, listening about primordial black holes and feeling at peace. There is something deeply gentle in that paradox. The universe may have begun with an explosion, but its journey has been a series of slow movements. The first galaxies did not rise in noise. They crystallized from subtle fluctuations, and perhaps your own peace is similar. It does not arrive in a sudden revelation, but through small gradual changes. To look far is to look backward in time, and to look backward in time is to learn that not every mystery must be closed. Some questions will remain like quasars shining in an ancient night. You may let them glow without reaching to grasp them. Let your mind drift softly among those early galaxies, past the first stars, past black holes larger than imagination, and then gently return back to this room, back to your breath. The universe has moved through darkness and light for billions of years. You may move through this night in a few quiet hours, slowly, softly, and calm enough to fall asleep. We have traveled very far, so far that numbers begin to dissolve, so far that the idea of distance grows faint. And then, among all these layers, there appears a boundary, not a wall, not the edge of a cliff, but a limit of light. The observable universe has an edge, not because space ends there, but because light from farther away has not yet had time to reach us. Pause with that thought. There is a boundary yet. It is not an ending. It is only the limit of what we are able to see. Like your vision in the night, there is a distance your eyes cannot cross, but that does not mean everything ceases beyond it. Albert Einstein wrote in Relativity, the special and the general theory. The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. We can understand a portion, but not the whole. And that is not failure. It is the structure of reality. Light has a finite speed, about 300,000 kilometers per second. It sounds swift, yet on the scale of the cosmos, even light requires time. Light from regions farther away has simply not had enough time to arrive. So, the edge of the observable universe is the edge of visible time, not the edge of existence. And if beyond that boundary there are still galaxies, still stars, still similar structures, then another possibility opens. The universe itself may have no boundary. It may stretch infinitely without repetition or repeating in ways we cannot imagine. Immanuel Kant once wrote in Critique of Pure Reason that the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me were the two things that filled him with awe. The starry heavens above, not because they have an edge, but because they seem not to. When confronted with the idea of infinity, the human heart often feels overwhelmed. But there is another way to see it, not as an abyss, but as an open sky. If the universe is infinite, then there is no center. And if there is no center, then there is no periphery. You are not at the edge. You are not in the middle. You are simply at a point. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Constantly regard the universe as one living being." If the universe is a living being, then every point within it belongs. Your smallness does not render you meaningless. It places you within context. There may be countless worlds like Earth. There may be endless variations of physical structure. The laws we know may be only a special case of something deeper. These ideas do not need to unsettle you. They may lighten you. For if the universe is too vast to grasp entirely, you are not required to grasp it. You do not need to reach the edge. You do not need to arrive at infinity. You only need to be here, in this moment, in this room. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra, all things are bound together. All things greet one another. All things affirm one another." If all things are bound together, then infinite distance is not separation. It is extension. When we think of infinity, we often imagine loneliness. Yet perhaps it is the opposite. An infinite structure does not exclude you. It includes you. Like an ocean that does not end at the horizon, yet you may sit by its shore and listen to the waves. The edge of the observable universe may be like that horizon. You see a distant curve. You know something lies beyond. But you do not need to travel there to feel its beauty. There is peace in accepting that your perception has limits. You do not need to know whether the universe is infinite to live a full day. You do not need to comprehend every structure to breathe more deeply. Carl Jung wrote, "In the undiscovered self, man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health." Perhaps unanswered questions are a kind of difficulty that keeps the mind alive. But at night, you do not need to resolve them. You may let them hang like distant galaxies. The edge of the universe is not a barrier. It is a reminder that light requires time, and so do you. You do not need to go everywhere at once. You do not need to understand everything in a single moment. The universe took billions of years to become what it is today. You may take a few minutes to settle. Imagine yourself standing beneath a night sky. No clear boundary, only depth. And within that depth, you are not lost. You are held. If there is infinity, then there is room for you. If there are countless worlds, then there is space for your story. You do not need to be the center. You do not need to be unique. Only a small point of light within a vast structure, and perhaps that is enough to quiet your heart. The universe may have no edge, but tonight there is a boundary, very near the boundary between wakefulness and sleep. Let your mind drift toward that distant horizon, and then gently pause. No need to cross it. No need to explore further. Simply know that beyond it, existence continues, and you may release yourself into that vastness. Infinity is not something to conquer, it is something to breathe with, and within that breath, you may fall asleep very softly. We have spoken of unimaginable distances, millions of light years, billions of light years. Yet there is a very simple question, and a very human one. How do we know? How can a small creature on a rocky planet measure the distance between galaxies? The answer is not a miracle. It is a ladder, a cosmic distance ladder. One rung, then another, then another. Henrietta Swan Leavitt, in the early 20th century, sat quietly among glass photographic plates at the Harvard Observatory. She studied variable stars in the Magellanic Cloud stars that brightened and dimmed with a steady rhythm. And she noticed something simple. The longer the period, the greater the true brightness. A relationship fine as a thread, yet strong enough to stretch across space. From that insight, Cepheid stars became standard candles, lighthouses in the dark ocean. When you know a star's true brightness, and you see how dim it appears, you can infer its distance. Edwin Hubble used this very method to measure the distance to Andromeda, and the world changed. No longer a universe confined within the Milky Way, but countless galaxies. Immanuel Kant once wrote, in Critique of Pure Reason, thoughts without content are empty. Intuitions without concepts are blind. Here, intuition about the sky was steadied by concept. No longer only a feeling of smallness, but a number. Yet Cepheids could carry us only so far. Beyond them, another rung was needed. Type 1. A supernovae white dwarfs exploding, reaching nearly identical peak brightness. They became stronger standard candles visible across billions of light years. From them we discovered that the universe's expansion is accelerating, not from a leap, but from continuation. Cepheids calibrate supernovae. Supernovae open paths to deeper regions. Then the cosmic microwave background light, remaining from when the universe was only 380,000 years old, became a vast reference point. Tiny fluctuations within the CMB reveal the architecture of large-scale structure. Gravitational lensing when light bends under mass became another measure. Light carries information not only about its source, but about everything it passes through. Each method is a bridge. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "In human all too human." All things are subject to interpretation. Whichever interpretation prevails at a given time is a function of power and not truth. Yet, in science, power is not imposition, it is verification. Each rung must rest upon the one before it. Each measurement is calibrated from near to far. There is no leap across the abyss. Only a span built carefully. The image is gentle. A bridge built across a deep canyon. one beam at a time, one plank at a time. You cannot run across it at the beginning. You place each step. Perhaps your life is the same. You cannot resolve your entire future in a single night. You can only take one step. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Do not disturb yourself by imagining your whole life at once." The cosmic distance ladder does not imagine the entire universe at once. It begins with nearby stars, then a little farther, then farther still. Carl Jung once said, "In the undiscovered self who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Yet to look outward, we also need tools. Science does not diminish the beauty of the sky. It deepens it. When you know that a supernova can measure billions of light years, the sky does not lose its wonder. It becomes more precise. And that precision does not remove peace. It reveals that humanity is not only a gazer, but a patient learner of measurement. Henrietta Leavitt did not know her discovery would alter humanity's view of the cosmos. She simply recorded, compared, observed, detail by detail. There is comfort in that. You do not need to comprehend the entire cosmos to contribute something meaningful. You only need to do your part well, like a Cepheid star, pulsing in its own steady rhythm. And one day, someone may use that rhythm to measure a greater distance. The cosmic distance ladder is not a sudden leap. It is a process, gentle, slow, structured, and perhaps this is also how you may enter sleep. You do not need to answer every question. You do not need to reach the edge of infinity. You need only descend the steps of this day. One breath, then another. The universe is measured by standard candles. Sleep is measured by release, step by step, and like a bridge across a canyon, when enough rungs have been laid, you realize you have traveled far, not by jumping, but by patience, as humanity has done with the stars. And now you may set down the final rung of this day, gently, and step into the darkness, not as an abyss, but as a quiet space, supported by all the small bridges you have built across your life. After building each careful rung of distance, humanity began to do something more, not only to measure, but to draw. Redshift surveys. Light from distant galaxies is stretched, shifted toward the red end of the spectrum, not because they are burning redder, but because the space between them and us is expanding. Each shift becomes a measure of time. When the Sloan Digital Sky Survey swept across the sky, it did not merely record points of light. It recorded position, distance, motion, one galaxy at a time, and then assembled them. A three-dimensional map slowly emerged, no longer scattered dots, but long filaments, walls, clusters. the cosmic web. When people look at these maps, they often say they resemble neurons in a brain or the structure of an immense sponge. Carl Jung once wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. In the cosmic web this becomes visible. From the apparent disorder of billions of galaxies, a quiet architecture appears. Dense regions linked by delicate strands. Between them, dark voids. Yet this map is not only space, it is time. Light from more distant galaxies is older. To look farther is to look deeper into the past. The map is not static. It is like a film reconstructed from frames separated by billions of years. Albert Einstein once said the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. In a redshift survey, past and present overlap. A nearby galaxy shows the universe now. A distant one reveals it in youth. They coexist upon a single canvas, and within these structures there are curious motions, peculiar velocities, movements not caused by the general expansion but by local gravitational pulls. A galaxy does not simply drift with the cosmic flow. It is tugged by neighboring mass. In some regions, thousands of galaxies appear to be drawn toward a single direction. The Great Attractor, a name both poetic and mysterious. We do not see it clearly hidden behind the dust of the Milky Way. Yet we see its effect, like wind, unseen, but branches bending. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything that happens is either endurable or not." In the universe, every motion has a cause, even if we do not yet know it. And then there is the idea of dark flow, the suggestion that vast clusters of galaxies may be moving together in a shared direction, as though something beyond the observable universe were pulling them. The hypothesis remains debated. Yet, its very existence stirs a feeling. Perhaps our picture is incomplete. Perhaps beyond the current frame, there are forces we have not yet recognized. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "We have art in order not to die of the truth. Science, too, offers a frame, a map, a structure, but it does not claim to be the whole. There is gentleness in that. We have moved from seeing scattered lights to tracing a vast network. And still we admit that this network may be only the visible portion. You may sense something similar in your own life. You look back at your past. You begin to see connections. Events once scattered start to form a shape. Yet there remain gaps, motives not fully understood, peculiar velocities within yourself. Carl Jung wrote in Modern Man, In Search of a Soul, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life. and you will call it fate. There are forces in the psyche like a great attractor. You may not see them clearly yet. You feel the direction of pull. Mapping the universe is like mapping the self. You begin with what is near, what is clear. Then you expand outward. Gradually a structure emerges, not perfect, not complete, but sufficient to know you are not entirely lost. A redshift survey does not give us the whole story. It gives us depth, and depth does not overwhelm when viewed slowly. Imagine standing before an immense three-dimensional map, luminous filaments crossing darkness. You do not need to understand every detail, only to see that there is structure. In the night's quiet, that map makes no noise. It simply is, and so are you. There are movements in your life you do not yet comprehend, forces drawing you in directions not fully seen. That does not mean you are lost. You may simply be within a frame of a film not yet finished. The universe is the same. We have drawn much, yet regions remain beyond the edge of the frame. And that is not frightening. It reminds us that every map is provisional. Let your mind drift along the luminous threads of the cosmic web. No need to find the center. No need to find the edge. Only to observe galaxies gliding slowly in darkness, individual motions within a shared flow, and within that vast structure, a small point. You not at the center, not at the edge, simply part of the network. And in that recognition, there is a very quiet peace. For you do not need to finish drawing the entire map before sleep. You need only set the pen down. The universe will continue to move. Galaxies will continue to drift. And you may close your eyes, allowing the film of space and time to continue unfolding in silence. When we look at radiant galaxies, we easily forget something. Between them lies space. Yet that space is not empty. The space between galaxies, the intergalactic medium, is a vast, diffuse ocean. Hydrogen, helium, the first elements of the universe, incredibly sparse, only a few atoms in a cubic meter, yet stretched across millions of light years. There is something gentle in this thought. Emptiness is not nothingness. It is simply thinly spread. Carl Jung wrote, in memories, dreams, reflections, in all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Even regions that seem empty hold structure. When light from a distant quasar travels through those clouds of gas, it carries their imprint. In its spectrum appear delicate absorption lines. The Lyman Alpha Forest, a forest of slender dark marks, each line a cloud of hydrogen at a different distance. Each faint stroke is a marker of time. Each subtle line is a layer of memory. Albert Einstein once said, "Look deep into nature and then you will understand everything better. When we look deeply into those absorption lines, we see the history of gas between galaxies. We see how matter flows, how it gathers, how it becomes ionized, then cools again. The space between galaxies is not merely background. It is part of the story. And then there was a time when the universe shone most intensely. About 10 billion years ago, astronomers call it cosmic noon, the universe's midday, the era when star formation reached its peak. Young galaxies burned brightly, cold gas was abundant, collisions were frequent, clouds collapsed and again. The universe then resembled the 20s of a human life, energetic, restless, filled with motion. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Cosmic noon was such a chaos of creation. From collisions and bursts, billions of stars were born. Heavy elements were forged in their cores: carbon, oxygen, iron. Without that bright midday, there would be no rocky planets, no life, no you. But the universe does not remain at its peak forever. Gas slowly thins. Galaxies age. The rate of star formation declines. The cosmos enters another phase, a middle age, no longer erupting as before, not because it has faded, but because its rhythm has slowed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, in Meditations, time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current. The universe is like that river. There are rapids. There are calm stretches. We live in a universe less turbulent than cosmic noon, perhaps more balanced. Fewer great collisions, fewer violent outbursts. Many galaxies have settled. Central black holes regulate gas. Energy feedback warms their surroundings. Star formation tapers gently. The universe is no longer a fiery youth. It is an adult. Perhaps that feels familiar. Your own life moves this way. There are seasons of eruption, years of brightness, and then quieter intervals. Those quiet intervals are not decline. They are breathing. Carl Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. Perhaps the pendulum of the universe swings between outburst and stillness. Cosmic noon is one end of the arc. The present is another. Both are necessary. If there were only eruption, there would be no stability. If only stability, no creation. The intergalactic medium remains quiet, holding most of the ordinary matter, like the bass line beneath a melody. Not the main theme, yet what sustains the rhythm. As you lie down tonight, perhaps you too have an intergalactic medium within you, a quiet background beneath the bright flashes of thought. Not everything must blaze, not every moment must be cosmic noon. There is value in calmness. There is beauty in maturity. The universe today forms fewer stars than it did 10 billion years ago. Yet it still exists, still expands, still carries its story forward. And so do you. You do not need to burn brightly at all times. You do not need to erupt. You may dwell in a quieter phase, like the gas between galaxies sparse yet present. Like a small Lyman alpha line, subtle yet bearing history. Imagine yourself drifting between two galaxies surrounded by thin, quiet space. No drama, no noise, only presence. The universe has had its noon. Now it rests in a long afternoon. You may allow yourself to enter that afternoon as well. Slower, softer, no need for another explosion, only to exist. And within that quiet background sleep may arrive like a small star, gently kindling in a universe that has learned to breathe more slowly. If you watch a galaxy long enough, you will see that it does not stand still. It grows, not by appearing from nothing, but by merging with what is smaller. Large galaxies grow by absorbing smaller ones. A faint star cluster is drawn inward. A thin ribbon of light bends and stretches. Streams of stars arc like silk across the dark. Galactic cannibalism. The name sounds violent, yet on the scale of the universe, it is a slow unfolding. Hundreds of millions of years for a single merger. The stars of the smaller galaxy do not vanish. They become part of a new structure, just as your memories do not disappear, but are woven into who you are now. Carl Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. The unconscious is not just evil by nature, it is also the source of the highest good. What is absorbed is not merely loss, it may become the source of a new form. Astronomers call the reading of this history galactic archaeology. From the orbits of stars, from their chemical composition, we learn which galaxies merged what they endured. Like archaeologists reconstructing the past from shards of pottery, we read the traces of ancient encounters in the structure of a galaxy. Albert Einstein once said, "Nothing happens until something moves." And in the cosmos, everything is always moving. Yet there is another quiet presence shaping the rhythm. The supermassive black hole at the center. Nearly every large galaxy holds one when it becomes active. An AGN, a quasar, it sends out jets of energy stretching millions of light years. Those jets heat the surrounding gas. And when gas becomes too hot, it cannot collapse to form new stars. Star formation slows, then fades. The galaxy ages. not because it has exhausted all matter, but because its rhythm has shifted. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." When a galaxy ceases to form new stars, it is not death, it is a transition. Blue, youthful stars gradually give way to older red ones. The light softens. It no longer blazes as it did at cosmic noon, but it deepens. Perhaps you too have known seasons of eruption, years of bright intensity, and then moments when everything slows. Fewer changes, fewer upheavals. That does not mean you are fading. It may simply be adjustment. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Yet no one can remain in chaos forever. There comes a time to quiet. The central black hole can be seen as a mechanism of regulation. When energy is abundant, it flares, it sends jets, it heats, then it settles. Carl Jung wrote in Modern Man, "In search of a soul who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. A galaxy too has an inside, a dark center, not to destroy, but to balance." Galactic archaeology shows that our Milky Way has absorbed many smaller galaxies in its past. Faint stellar streams still wrap around it, traces of ancient meetings. There is no maturity without history. You are the same. Collisions, losses, things you have absorbed, they do not vanish. They shape your orbit. Older galaxies form fewer stars, yet they are no less meaningful. They hold red stars that burn steadily and long. There is beauty in maturity, not loud, not explosive, simply enduring light. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart." For a galaxy, that struggle is billions of years of merging and adjustment. For you, perhaps only decades. Yet the rhythm is similar. There are phases of rapid growth. There are phases of stillness. The black hole does not only consume, it regulates. A quasar does not only blaze, it reshapes its environment. The universe does not only create stars, it also knows when to pause. Perhaps tonight you may pause as well, not because you are depleted, but because you need to quiet. Galactic evolution is not a tale of violence, but a restructuring. A galaxy grows by integration, not erasure. Old stars continue to shine. The central black hole keeps the rhythm. And in the deep darkness, everything unfolds slowly. You do not need to evolve in a single night. You do not need to shift your orbit right now. Allow yourself to be like an older galaxy, softer light, slower pulse. Let the stellar streams of your past drift without needing correction. The universe has learned to balance eruption and silence. You can too. And in that silence, sleep may arrive not as extinction, but as a cycle of rest within the long journey of a structure still maturing. There is a future so distant that all of human history would be only a fleeting breath within it. In that future, the night sky will be different. Not because the stars of the Milky Way have gone dark, but because the galaxies beyond our local group will slowly drift out of sight. The expansion of the universe does not merely continue, it accelerates. Dark energy, a mysterious component, drives space to stretch faster and faster with time. When the distance between galaxies grows quickly enough, their light will never reach us. They cross the cosmic horizon. They do not vanish. They simply move beyond observability. Albert Einstein once wrote in a letter to Michel Besso, "For us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Yet even within that continuity, there are limits to perception. One day, if astronomers exist in the far future, they may look up and see only a single vast galaxy, the merged descendant of the Milky Way and Andromeda. They will not see the cosmic web. They will not see millions of distant galaxies. They will not detect the redshift of clusters at the edge of space. The universe will remain as immense as ever. But their window will have narrowed. There is something beautifully sorrowful in that vision. Not because the universe becomes poorer, but because the window of sight contracts. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." If that is so, then, in that distant future, the cosmos will still know itself, but with less information. Not every era is given the same sky. We live in a time when the sky is abundant. Distant galaxies still lie within reach of sight. We can measure expansion. We can map the cosmic web. We can infer dark energy. Perhaps that is a quiet privilege. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "In meditations dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them." He did not know of dark energy, yet he understood this. The sky is a reminder. One day, distant galaxies will no longer appear in the night, not because they have ceased to exist, but because they have traveled too far. It is like memory. There are people in your life who are no longer present, not because they no longer exist, but because distance has changed. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." Perhaps the meaning in that future solitude is not fear, but recognition of the present's value. We live in a phase when the universe can still be seen in breadth. In the far future, scientists may not even know that the universe once expanded from a big bang. They may believe their galaxy is all there is, just as humanity once believed the Milky Way encompassed everything. History may echo itself on a different scale. Carl Jung wrote, "In the undiscovered self, the world hangs on a thin thread," and that is the psyche of man. Our perception is always fragile, not because reality is fragile, but because perspective is limited. In that distant loneliness, the universe will continue. Stars will burn. Black holes will consume matter. Space will expand. Only the observer will see less, and perhaps that is not tragic. For that solitude arrives after hundreds of billions of years, time enough for countless civilizations to rise and fall. There is serenity in accepting that every viewpoint is temporary. You cannot see your entire life at once. You see only a slice. The universe is the same. We inhabit a slice when the sky is still rich. Think of it as a rare moment, not to worry about the distant future, but to appreciate the present. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. Even in an expanding universe, there may be a summer of awareness, and we are living within it. One day, distant light will no longer arrive. But tonight the sky is still full. Galaxies remain. Quasars still blaze. You do not need to think in terms of hundreds of billions of years, only a few quiet minutes. Accelerating expansion is not instant destruction. It is a slow process, very slow. Like the way your body gradually releases into sleep. At first you hear sound, then fewer, then only your breathing. The universe, in that distant future, may resemble a quiet room, less light, less motion, yet not empty. And in that vision, there is no tragedy, only continuation. The universe does not require observation in order to exist. And you do not need to understand the entire future in order to rest. Let the thought of distant galaxies drift gently beyond view, not lost, only farther away. Then return to this room, to the present night sky. You are living in a moment when the universe can still be seen in its vastness. That is beautiful enough. And within that beauty, there is a very soft sorrow. Not sorrow for loss, but for the knowledge that all things move. Yet that movement need not trouble you. It only reminds you that tonight is part of a long current, and you may let yourself drift within that current like a small galaxy gliding through space without fear, slow, soft, and at peace. And now, as this journey slowly goes to rest, you do not need to carry with you all the galaxies, the numbers, or the vast concepts we have passed through. The universe continues to expand. Stars continue to burn. Immense structures move quietly in the dark. But tonight, You do not need to keep pace with them. Perhaps the only thing worth holding is this feeling that within a universe immeasurable and ever-changing, you still have a place that is deeply still. Not at the center, not at the edge, simply here. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." Let the wide sky gently fold inward into a quiet space within you. Let distant galaxies dissolve into the steady rhythm of your breath. You do not need to understand the whole universe in order to rest. You do not need to see infinity in order to feel complete. And now, close your eyes. Let this soft darkness hold you as vast space has held the stars for billions of years.